Hey, what's going on, guys? Like Butter here. Welcome back to another Division video, and today I want to talk about the whole kind of feud that's been going on in the Division community lately over Seeker Mines and Deadeye, and I want to give my opinions on it and show you why I can understand where both sides are coming from. Now, I'm the type of person that used to look at things not as objectively as I do these days. These days I try to look at how the Division is as an RPG and what removing or making something weaker could do to actually hinder the future of the game. So let's talk 1.6.1, because if you guys don't know, 1.6.1 is in PTS stages right now. It is week 2 of the PTS, and there has been no change to Seeker Mines except for the fact that Stagger is no longer a part of them. Now, the argument is, well, removing Stagger doesn't really do much because the Seeker Mines one-shot me anyways. Now, Seeker Mines have been in a discussion for quite some time now. A lot of people saying that they're really overpowered, that they're just a one-click skill and that they take no type of, accuracy or brains whatsoever. You just click the skill and you get a one-shot kill. And a lot of people are saying, well, if I, put all my points into skill power and into electronics, I should be able to one-shot people because I am making myself into a glass cannon. Therefore, I should be able to output that kind of damage. And the same goes for firearms. People who run 9K firearms builds. You guys know I've done 9K firearms builds before, and you definitely take a large amount of damage. Now, here's the problem. I'm going to show it from the developer side. I'm going to show it from the people defending Seeker Mines, and I'm also going to show it from the player side that really think Seeker Mines need to be either nerfed or completely just reworked. Here's the problem. So if you just nerf every single thing into the ground, what ends up happening is we end up with a Call of Duty experience where the only viable builds are to run DPS builds. Right now, tank builds really aren't that viable because of the poor ratio between the amount of stamina and the amount of health that stamina gives you. Now, the reason this isn't as big of a problem as people think is because tanks were a huge problem in the beginning stages of the Division and kind of held the game back, in my opinion, because of all the resistances, the fact that armor was a must grab, and how hard stamina used to scale. So I'm actually happy that tanks aren't like the meta anymore, because that was super frustrating to have people running around and shooting each other and no one ever dying. However, there's been a lot of things that have changed since then and now. One of those things is in 1.6, the player talents, the resistances from player talents, most of them got cut in half right down the middle. I think the only one that didn't was possibly Battle Buddy. That went from 50% to 30%. But all the other ones, I'm talking on the move, critical save, all of those have been cut in half. With the removal of armor on top of that, it's also kind of frustrating for a tank player because now it feels like you're squishy no matter how much stamina you invest. So I want to do some possible kind of test prototype tank builds in the future, but I really hope to see a tank gear set in the future that gives you, more armor, more health, that kind of thing. Because I think right now skill power players are a huge part in success in the Division. The healer builds help so incredibly much, and they are almost to a point absolutely necessary in order for a group to go up against another group that has a healer build. And I like this because this makes diversity. If everyone was running around with DPS builds, it'd be 1.5 all over again, where there's no diversity. Everyone's running, Alpha Bridge, and then it's kind of boring PvP. It's just, nobody using skills, nobody using different builds. Everyone's just kind of a mirror image of each other. And that is why they don't want to nerf Seeker Mines. They don't want to make Seeker Mines another skill like sticky bombs that are completely irrelevant and completely useless. Now, the problem with sticky bombs, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is that the sticky bombs got overly nerfed because there was a bug where they were doing double the damage in PvP, and this pissed a lot of people off because there were a lot of one-shot sticky bombs builds out there. And it honestly wasn't because the sticky bomb was overpowered or the skill power was scaling out of control. It was the simple fact that the multiplier, most of you guys know that PvP runs through a multiplier so that you don't do as much damage as you do in PvE. that multiplier was actually broken and it was doubling in damage. So what ended up happening in the next patch, even though the sticky bombs weren't even viable anymore, they ended up nerfing them again by giving them that delay. Now that sticky bombs have that 1 second to 1.5 second delay when you shoot them, I think that this is enough time for sticky bombs to get a significant damage buff. Now, hold the phone. I know some of you guys are probably like, no, Drew, we don't want to go back to sticky bomb meta. But here's the problem. When you have skills that are super useless, it kills build diversity. And right now, all the different gear sets are actually super viable in their own way. There's a couple of them that aren't, mostly just Hunter's Faith. Well, you know, that's going to get reworked. We already know that. But having build diversity in an RPG is what keeps the game moving. And I know it's frustrating, guys, and I know it's so annoying when you get one shot by a Seeker Mine, but I promise, if you build correctly, and people are using, you know, Seeker Mines all through Last Stand, because in my opinion, a solo Seeker Mine is not how you have to look at it. You have to look at it when an entire team is using one Seeker Mine. That's when it kind of starts spiraling out of control, because yes, you can counter one Seeker Mine, but you can't, however, counter 4 Seeker Mines at the same time. Which is why I think that Seeker Mines need to be looked at. I really think that the damage should be taken down a little bit, but I understand why the devs are hesitant to do this, because this is exactly what they did with the sticky bombs, and now sticky bombs are completely useless. And the same thing goes for smart cover. You never really see people using smart cover anymore, but when people were spamming smart cover, a lot of players didn't like going up against it because it's not fun shooting a player that takes absolutely no damage at all. So they definitely, you know, took down the damage resistance, and they also gave it a counter, which is once again why now smart cover is so weak. It's because Massive and Red Storm and all the devs that are working on the Division do this thing, and they don't do it intentionally, but it definitely happens, where they overly nerf things. They nerf things in 2 ways, and by nerfing them in 2 ways, it makes the skill super, super difficult to find viable anymore. The thing with smart cover is that they made it so that there's a counter now where a grenade or some sort of explosive or EMP sticky can completely disable that smart cover, but they also drastically reduce the amount of resistance and other things that you receive from it. Now that you have such low damage mitigation anyways, the extra, you know, damage mitigation that you get from smart cover, considering you're an immobile object, you're an immobile, you know, target, it makes it so that smart cover really isn't that viable anymore unless you're doing PvE. At least that I've seen in PvP, and maybe one of you guys out there has some crazy smart cover build, and that would be really cool to see. But I seriously think that smart cover and sticky bombs need to be looked at and possibly buffed in the future. Now, this is coming from the person who absolutely hated smart cover and sticky bombs, but I understand that if we continue to nerf skills into the ground, it's going to make it so that there's only a few viable options for skill power players. Right now, the only viable options for skill power players is if you want to do damage, you get an airburst Seeker Mine. If you want to help your team, you do a healer build. Now, I think the idea of the healer builds are fantastic. It's awesome seeing people use these builds to help their teammates, and healing for 400,000 HP every 6-8 seconds is pretty awesome to see. So, in my opinion, I totally understand why Seeker Mines aren't being touched as of right now. However, I think there also needs to be kind of more looking into the AoE of the Seeker Mines, because that is my biggest pet peeve with the Seeker Mines. It's not the damage they do, it's the fact that I've had so many times where I've shot the Seeker Mine before it exploded and it still goes off anyways and kills me. This is obviously due to latency, so maybe there needs to be, you know, the areas of effect being looked at for the Seeker Mines more than the damage that it's doing. Because if you nerf the damage, it ends up becoming useless, and then you have people just tanking the Seeker Mines and they don't do anything anyways. A lot of the people who are very frustrated with Seeker Mines are players that are running around with 9,000 firearms and no defense whatsoever. That is the opinion of the devs. That's why they're hesitant to nerf the Seeker Mines. I promise you, if you put exotic damage resilience on your chest piece and your mask, and you put a little bit more into skill power and stamina and take that 9,000 firearms down a bit, you will notice that Seeker Mines will stop one-shotting you. As a matter of fact, they will actually be quite useless if you build the right way. So I'm gonna make some counter to Seeker Mine builds here in the future that you guys can check out and possibly use. I'll be testing it in Last Stand and all that good stuff. So hopefully you guys can understand why this is a problem. Now, Deadeye, on the other hand, is one thing that I just can't get behind. I just simply have a different opinion from the developers. I understand what they mean. They don't want to do the same thing with the Seekers. They don't want to make, you know, Deadeye another useless set. Therefore, you know, we have Hunter's Faith, we have Deadeye. Those are two useless sniper sets. Then the only like useful sniper set left is either, you know, you're doing a full glass cannon high-end build, or you're doing a sentry build, which we've known in the past how much sentry has been nerfed. So that is the opinion of both the community and both the developers, and I understand both sides. I really wish that Deadeye became a more fun set to use. I personally don't think shooting people in the body should be rewarded, nor do I think that it's fun to do. I really hope they find a way to make it an actual sniper set and base it around headshots at a longer distance and give players those one-shot sniper builds that I think should be in the game. Now, nobody wants to be one-shotted, right? It's very frustrating. But if they're going to keep options for people to build completely glass cannon skill power, then the players who build all firearms and build, you know, all crit damage, all headshot damage, all crit chance, all those really, really important you know, talents and attributes that you need in order to one-shot, I think that if someone's paper thin, they should be able to one-shot with Deadeye at a certain distance, because long-range headshots, as you guys know, are not easy in PvP, and I think it would be a really cool sniper set to see people use in incursions and things like that, sniper builds in the back. So that's my opinion, guys. I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. That's me kind of trying to lay out the whole controversy thing. I really hope that sticky bombs and smart cover become more of a conversation in the future. I don't want them to become what they were, but I do want to see more skills be viable than what we've been dealing with recently. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I've been Like Butter, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop the video a like, share it with your friends, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.